I was so lucky to be chosen to do the adrenal glands, which are located superior to the kidney. The kidneys are bean shaped and they're located in your retroperitoneal, which is just behind your parietal peritoneum in this region. The kidneys have three parts. There's the cortex, the medulla, and the pelvis. Within the cortex there are millions of nephrons, which assist the body to remove waste in the blood, return necessary substances after filtration, and they help regulate the water and the electrolyte balances in the blood, and it secretes the end product, which we all know is urine. The adrenal gland produces two hormones, which are cortisol and aldosterone. Aldosterone helps regulate the function of the kidneys, and cortisol helps regulate a variety of functions in the body. But as I go into my presentation on Addison's disease, I'll explain more the purpose of each of the hormones. So, Addison's disease is also known as adrenal insufficiency. It is an endocrine disorder which occurs in all ages. It affects 1 in 100,000 people. It occurs when the adrenal gland does not produce enough cortisol, or in some cases aldosterone. It's more the cortisol than the aldosterone, which, as I said, cortisol affects a lot more functions throughout the whole body, not just your kidneys. As I mentioned earlier, cortisol is in the adrenal gland, which is above the kidney, and it is regulated by the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus activates the pituitary to release ACTH, which is adrenal corticotropin, and then that activates the adrenal gland to produce the cortisol. In return, the cortisol will then signal back to the pituitary to lower the secretion of the ACTH, which I like to say a little easier than the actual name. Cortisol helps to maintain blood pressure and cardiovascular function. It slows down the immune system, like the inflammatory response. It balances the effects of insulin and breaks down the sugars into energy, which Sandra talked a lot about. Regulates the metabolism of proteins, carbs, and fats, and maintains a sense of just happiness and well-being. Sometimes Addison's disease can be affected with aldosterone as well, and that's when there's insufficient aldosterone. That means the kidneys are unable to produce regulate salt and water balance, and that causes your blood volume and your blood pressure to drop, which in turn we all know affects the body quite severely. It can be caused by an autoimmune disorder where your body's immune system attacks its own tissues and organs. Tuberculosis is another one. Chronic fungal infections can destroy the adrenal glands, and cancer cells that metastasize to the adrenal glands, or surgical removal of the adrenal glands, are all causes that Addison's. As you can tell, that's an insufficient production of your two hormones. Signs and symptoms are like every other disease in this world. Weight loss, muscle weakness, fatigue, blood pressure, vomiting, diarrhea, and nausea. You crave salt, which I do almost every day, so I have Addison's disease. But the main one for Addison's is that you get the darkening of your like skin folds or your elbows, your knees, anywhere where there's pressure points, your lips, your mucous membranes. The onsets, because of onsets, the onsets are quite gradual, so it's even like diabetes. Sometimes you just don't even know you have it. It's just all of a sudden, oh my God, I have Addison's. When the signs and symptoms get more severe, it's called an Addisian crisis, and it's when you suddenly have this penetrating pain in your back, in your lower back, your abdomen, and your legs. You have severe vomiting and diarrhea and dehydration. Your blood pressure can be low, and you can lose consciousness, and then if left untreated, it will kill you. It's fatal. The ways to test for it are x-rays, CAT scans, and blood tests. Treatment, being hormones, it's replacement therapy. You can replace cortisol orally with hydrocortisone tablets once or twice a day, and aldosterone, if that's also affecting and causing the Addison's, you can replace that with fludrocortisone acetate, also known as Florinef, which is once a day. Standard therapy for Addison's crisis would include, in the ER, you'd have an IV of hydrocortisone, saline, and dextrose to get all your sugars and your salts and the cortisone back into your system. I just brought one simple little picture. It's quite simple, but it's just, I'm a visual person. I drew my kidneys, and the little darker areas, which actually look more like fat deposits on top of your kidneys, are your adrenal glands. And then I just showed where the hypothalamus and the pituitary are. The hypothalamus is kind of your triangle on top, and then the pituitary is right lower. And they work in a variety of different ways with a variety of different hormones in your system. Thank you. Any questions?
Good job.